Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC 291, Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2, and this card is stacked with incredible fights. I am so excited for this fight card, and this is going to be my full card predictions. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card and give you a quick breakdown and prediction. Starting off with the first fight of the night, we have Miranda Maverick versus Priscila Cachoeira. Miranda Maverick stepping in on short notice. She just fought a month ago against Jasmine Jadavicius. She lost this fight via decision. Just got outworked after the first round, got outgrappled, outstruck, started to fade in the third round really badly. You have Priscila Cachoeira coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. She KO'd Ariane Lipski, TKO'd her in her last fight, but that was 11 months ago. And then her last loss was a year and a half ago against Jillian Robertson, where she got rear naked choked, and she tried to gouge her eyes out to avoid the submission, which is crazy. She wasn't cut for that. But when I look at this matchup and I look at their skill sets, Miranda Maverick, I think she got a little bit too much hype as a potential prospect in the flyweight division. And she's just kind of decently well-rounded. She has decent grappling. She has decent BJJ. She has decent striking. She has okay cardio. Started to fade a lot in the last fight when Jasmine Jadavicius was just putting the pressure on him. And then Priscila Cachoeira, she just likes to walk you down, throw big power shots, and look for a finish. She's one of the few fighters in the UFC, few women's fighters in the UFC that has KO power. And honestly, the deciding factor is, can Cachoeira get a finish? Can she get a TKO in this fight? And I don't think she can. I think Miranda Maverick's a little bit better. I think a little bit more well-rounded. I think she'll be able to avoid the big shots. And I don't trust Cachoeira's gas tank at all. Miranda Maverick doesn't have a good gas tank, but it's better than Cachoeira's because she tends to just start really fast, throwing big wild looping shots. She gasses herself out. She already has a grappling deficiency. She doesn't have the best takedown defense. When she gets taken down, she doesn't have excellent BJJ. So I see Miranda Maverick maybe losing the first round, and then after that, I think she wins the second and third round pretty clearly. So I'm going Miranda Maverick 29-28 decision. You know, Maverick's 26 years old to Cachoeira is 34 years old. So it's 8-year youth advantage. They have the same reach, even though Cachoeira has a 4-inch height advantage, which is crazy to me. So I'm going Miranda Maverick via 29-28 decision. Moving up on the card, Mathew Semelsberger versus Uroš Medić. Mathew Semelsberger coming off that crazy fight against Jeremiah Wells, where he was rocking Jeremiah Wells like every single round. And then somehow Jeremiah Wells is just getting takedowns and clinching up and barely surviving. And Jeremiah Wells wins the fight because he was able to do damage on the ground. This was a very close fight. This was a split decision. You have Uroš Medić, who's been kind of inactive, hasn't fought in over a year. His last fight was against Omar Morales. Got a KO, TKO there. Fight before that, lost to Jalen Turner. That feels like 5 years ago, but it was roughly 2 years ago at this point in time. So you look at him, he came off of Dana White's Contender Series 3 years ago. He's fought once a year basically for the last 3 years. Both these guys are 30 years old. Both are 6'1", but Semelsberger has a 4-inch reach advantage. And I really think the deciding factor in this fight, I think Medić is a little bit more technical, has better footwork, has better kicks. I think he's a little bit faster as well, but I don't think they're massive skill deficiencies for Mathew Semelsberger. I think they're very close, even though I give Medić those advantages. And I think Mathew Semelsberger has nuclear power in his hands. And Uroš Medić being out, having a little bit of ring rust, he gets hit quite a bit in all of his fights. I'm going Mathew Semelsberger via first round KO. I just think Semelsberger is going to be able to find that kill shot in the first round. Big right hand, 4-inch reach advantage. And I just don't think Medić, with the time off, I think he's going to come back a little bit slower. Meanwhile, you have Semelsberger, who's been active, even if he lost his last fight. And the way to beat Semelsberger is just to out-grapple him. And Medić is not going to attempt to do that. You look at Semelsberger, a lot of people thought he was going to lose to Jake Matthews, which was just 5 months ago or 6 months ago at this point in time. Jake Matthews looked like a world beater against Andre Fialho. And Mathew Semelsberger went out there and beat up Jake Matthews for 3 rounds. So I think Semelsberger's a little bit underrated within the welterweight division. And I think he's going to clip Medić early. I think Medić will be kind of circling around the cage, eventually get clipped with a big shot, put down, ground and pound TKO, first round for Mathew Semelsberger. Moving up on the card, we have CJ Vergara versus Vinicius Salvador. CJ Vergara coming off that win over Daniel Lacerda. What's crazy about CJ Vergara, he pulled a Chelsea Chandler, before Chelsea Chandler even pulled a Chelsea Chandler. He got hurt badly in the first round against Daniel Lacerda, and he literally ran in circles for his life. He somehow survives. Daniel Lacerda gasses out, and then he finishes Daniel Lacerda in the second round, which was crazy. He came off of Dana White's Contender Series as well. He's had 4 fights since he came off of Dana White's Contender Series. He's 2-2 in the UFC, has a loss to Ode Osborne, has a win over Cledson Rodriguez, which is a decent win, and has a loss to Tatsuro Taira, which isn't a bad loss to have, especially by submission. He's 32 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. So everything is kind of similar. I mean, you have a youth advantage for Salvador, 27 years old, 2.5-inch reach for Salvador, and just a 1-inch height advantage. So it's very similar. Salvador also coming off Dana White's Contender Series where he KO'd Shannon Ross. But what does that really mean? We just watched Shannon Ross get brutalized just recently, 1-punch KO. Coming off a loss against Victor Altamirano. I honestly thought Salvador could have won this fight. It was a very close fight. Primarily striking, and Vinicius Salvador looking to defend some takedowns, got taken down, ended up on the bottom with some control time. So, he ended up losing the decision ultimately. But when I look at this matchup, I think that Salvador has a little bit better striking in terms of especially his boxing. But I think CJ Vergara is just a little bit more well-rounded. He has the takedowns, and he also has very good kicks. And also, he's durable. He's gotten hurt badly, somehow finds a way to survive. He has great in-and-out movement, great athleticism. And I just think the mixture of the kicks plus the wrestling, I think CJ Vergara gets this. I'm going CJ Vergara via 29-28 decision. Vinicius Salvador, I would not count him out at all. I think he could win this fight. But he just eats a lot of leg kicks, eats a lot of body kicks, and he's not great when he gets taken down. And I think Vergara will be chewing up that lead leg badly. I think he'll be kicking him to the body, and I think he'll be mixing in the wrestling. So I see CJ Vergara winning this fight. I could even see a 30-27 decision win for CJ Vergara. I just think he's too well-rounded for Vinicius Salvador. Moving up on the card, we have Jake Matthews versus Darrius Flowers. Darrius Flowers stepping in on short notice. This is a good fight. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. Darrius Flowers, this will be his UFC debut after he had a win on Dana White's Contender Series where a guy was looking for like an inverted triangle, picked him up, slammed him, dislocated his shoulder. The guy had to tap out. Darrius Flowers actually looked undersized on Dana White's Contender Series at welterweight. So I'm curious how he looks size-wise against Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews coming off that decision loss against Mathew Semelsberger. But before that, I mean, this is how MMA is so weird. Before that, he looked so good against Andre Fialho and finished him, and now Andre Fialho is on a downslope, borderline out of the UFC, and then Jake Matthews comes back and loses to Mathew Semelsberger. Both of these guys are 28 years old. Jake Matthews has a 2-inch height advantage, 72-inch reach to 71-inch reach, so really nothing that different there. When I look at this matchup, Jake Matthews is hit or miss. I mean, we've seen him have a close fight with Diego Sanchez not that long ago. I mean that was 3 years ago, but still, having a close fight with Diego Sanchez at the tail end of his career, you can't forget that. You have Darrius Flowers, who very fast, has nasty power in his hands, very explosive, has decent wrestling. And honestly, I wanted to pick Jake Matthews because Darrius Flowers is coming in on short notice. But how often have we seen these guys come in on short notice and win fights? And I don't trust Jake Matthews at all. He gets clipped a lot. Mathew Semelsberger was clipping him up badly. And Darrius Flowers has very fast hands and brutal KO power. So I think Darrius Flowers is going to come out and look to prove a point in this fight. I think he's going to come out super aggressive. I think he has faster hands. And I think he will be able to defend the takedowns of Jake Matthews. So I'm going Darrius Flowers first round KO. I think Jake Matthews is one of those guys that's always going to be hit or miss. He'll have a great performance, then have 2 crappy performances. He'll have a good performance, have another crappy performance. And I think Darrius Flowers, fast enough, strong enough, has good enough defensive wrestling, and has good enough power. And I think he's super explosive. I think he'll be able to find a finish in the first round. He clips Jake Matthews, puts him out with 1 punch in the first round. Darrius Flowers by KO. Moving up on the card, you have Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro. Roman Kopylov coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. Finished Punahele Soriano in his last fight. Fight before that, beat Alessio Di Cirio. Before that, lost to Albert Duraev, and before that, lost to Carl Robertson. But that's 2 and 4 years ago. So he had some injuries, I guess, 4 years ago, was out for a bit. 32 years old. I feel like he's still improving. He looks good fight after fight. Looks like he's improving. Claudio Ribeiro is coming off the win over Joseph Holmes a little over a month ago at this point in time. Before that, he lost to Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and he came off of Dana White's Contender Series. Claudio Ribeiro literally reminds me of Yoel Romero. He has these massive legs. He has these huge, like, power blitzes where he throws big shots. but he doesn't have the best cardio, and he doesn't really have a desire to mix in the wrestling all that much. He does mix it in, and he is successful with it, but he doesn't really use it super effectively, or at least we haven't seen him just go to it nonstop. He's 31 years old, 6'1", with a 77-inch reach, so a 2-inch reach advantage for Ribeiro and a 1-inch height advantage. Both guys similar age, both guys similar records. You look at Kopylov, 9 out of 10 wins by KO or TKO. You look at Ribeiro, 11 out of 11 wins by KO or TKO. So I think this fight there's definitely going to be a finish in this fight. And I look at Kopylov, he's southpaw and loves throwing that body kick. And Ribeiro is orthodox. So I see Kopylov literally abusing the body of Ribeiro with the body kicks. And Ribeiro doesn't have good cardio at all. He slowed down in his last fight against Joseph Holmes, slowed down to a crawl, even though eventually he got the finish. Now he has big power. He can land a big shot and finish Kopylov. But Kopylov, we've seen him in some, fights where he faced a little bit of adversity. I think he has far better striking, throws good combinations, has a good jab, has excellent kicks. And I think he'll be landing that southpaw body kick to the orthodox fighter of Ribeiro. He'll slow him down significantly. And I am going to go with Roman Kopylov's second round TKO. I think he hurts him with a body kick and then finishes him with ground and pound. Moving up on the card, we have Derrick Lewis versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. A heavyweight matchup in Salt Lake City. And I meant to mention that for the last fight. Ribeiro doesn't have good cardio elsewhere, let alone at elevation. So Derrick Lewis and Marcos Rogerio de Lima fighting at elevation. What a joke this is. Horrible idea for everyone involved. Derrick Lewis may gas out on the walkout. But you look at Derrick Lewis, 38 years old. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, 38 years old. Lewis 6'3", the de Lima 6'1". 4-inch reach advantage, 79-inch reach for Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis coming in on a 3-fight losing streak. Lost to Sergey Spivak in his last fight via arm triangle. Lost to Sergey Pavlovich in his last fight via KO TKO, or the fight before that. Lost to Tai Tuivasa via KO TKO. His last win was against Chris Daukaus a year and a half ago. And I know Derrick Lewis always has the nuclear option. And, honestly, you can never count out Derrick Lewis. You can just never count out Derrick Lewis. But I'm wondering, is his chin starting to degrade? He's taken a lot of damage. He seems like he's showing up for a paycheck. And now he's showing up in Salt Lake City at elevation. But you have Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Honestly, he doesn't have the best resume. His last win was against Waldo Cortez Acosta via unanimous decision. Not the best performance there. Before that, he finished Andrei Arlovsky, but Andrei Arlovsky's a dead body at that point. And then a year and 2 months ago, he lost to Blagoy Ivanov. So this is a fight where, honestly, it could go either way. Usually with these types of fights, I go Derrick Lewis by KO because he finds a way to pull it off. He has nuclear power. If he touches you on the chin, he's putting you to sleep. But I think Marcos Rogerio de Lima has a massive grappling advantage. I think he has decent power. And I think you're going to see de Lima just chop the legs of Derrick Lewis over and over and over again and then mix in the takedowns. So I think I am going to go with Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I'm going to go second round rear naked choke finish because I don't think de Lima isn't the biggest heavyweight. Where I think if he takes Derrick Lewis down early, I think Derrick Lewis will be able to explode back to his feet with no technique. But I think de Lima is going to be smart enough where he'll clinch up with Lewis early. He'll be chopping the leg early. And I think Derrick Lewis will have those few explosions where he starts to tire himself out. And I think de Lima will get a takedown, maybe the end of the first round, do a little bit of damage there, but he's saved by the bell. And then the second round, I think he'll shoot in on a takedown after chopping his legs a bit, where Derrick Lewis is kind of limping around. I think he'll get a takedown, and then basically Derrick Lewis is going to give up the neck because he wants to get out of there and just collect his paycheck. So I'm going Marcos Rogerio de Lima, second round rear naked choke. I just don't think Derrick Lewis has it in him anymore. 21 of 26 wins by KO or TKO. If he doesn't find that finish, he just doesn't win, And de Lima has 17 of 21 by finish, mix of KO, TKO, and sub. So I think this fight definitely ends in a finish. I think it definitely ends early. It's just a matter of, does Derrick Lewis get the first round KO, or does de Lima get a sub or a first round or early second round KO? But I'm going Marcos Rogerio de Lima, early second round rear naked choke, takes him down, chokes him out almost immediately, and finishes him. Moving up on the card, we have Trevor Giles versus Gabriel Bonfim. What a matchup this is. I'm really looking forward to this fight. Trevin Giles is actually better than people give him credit for. He has great in and out movement, great hands. He's very fast. He wants to strike. He used to fight at light heavyweight, used to fight at middleweight, fought Dricus du Plessis, was actually winning that fight before he got caught. He's on a 2-fight winning streak right now. He's coming in off a win over Preston Parsons. Split decision win. Not super impressed with that performance. Lost some grappling exchanges, close fight. I still thought he won. Fight before that, he beat Luis Kosei. This fight, he got out-grappled. I think it was in the 3rd round. But Trevin Giles, he wants to strike. He wants to keep it on the feet. He has decent enough grappling where he usually can get up. He's 30 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Bonfim, 25 years old, super young, 6'1", so a 1-inch height advantage, 72-inch reach, so a 2-inch reach advantage for Giles. Bonfim is 14-0, and all 14 by finish, 11 submissions, and 3 KO, TKO. And this guy just pulls off the slickest submissions ever. I mean, Minor Lazez in his last fight got a mounted guillotine choke. They were just kind of striking. He kind of ducked under, Lazez did, and boom. Bonfim just jumps on his neck, submits him, ends it up, and it would have mounted a guillotine. The fight before that, against Trey Waters on Dana White's Contender Series, the commentary, DC, thought Trey Waters had a guillotine in, and really Bonfim was submitting him via Von Flue choke. So I just think Bonfim, and also Bonfim has crazy power on the feet. So I think Bonfim has more ways to win. He does worry me a bit because he will strike throwing wild shots with his chin straight up in the air, but I'm hoping that he's working on that. He's still young. He's still got a good chin. He's never been finished. He has excellent grappling and submission skills. And Trevin Giles, it seems like every fight he ends up on the ground at some point in time, whether he gets hurt or taken down. And I think Gabriel Bonfim will find a way to make this end up on the ground, whether he just rushes forward, throws a big shot, lands it, drops him, and then jumps on his neck while he's trying to get up, or while Giles is trying to shoot in on a desperation double leg, or Bonfim just shoots in on a takedown, creates a scramble, gets some back exposure, jumps on his back, and gets a rear naked choke. I think Bonfim will find a way to get this on the ground and get it on the ground early. I'm going Gabriel Bonfim via 1st round submission. I'm going to go arm triangle. I think he's going to get a takedown. I think he's going to throw some big shots. Giles is going to be worried about the hands. He's going to get a takedown. Maybe he'll catch a kick, take him down. And I think once he takes Trevin Giles down, he will work his way to an arm triangle with relative ease. And I think Gabriel Bonfim gets the 1st round submission via arm triangle. Moving up on the card, the first fight opening the main card, Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. What a matchup this is. Michael Chiesa ranked number 12 in the welterweight division. Kevin Holland coming in after that win over Santiago Ponzinibbio, where he was just having big moments and eventually gets a finish in the 3rd round. Great win for Kevin Holland. The fight before that, lost to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, was losing the fight. Eventually, basically quits on the stool because he had a broken hand. Corner stops it. Fight before that, got absolutely mauled by Khamzat Chimaev, but was on short notice. You look at Michael Chiesa, been out for over a year and a half. He lost to Sean Brady in his last fight, got out grappled. Had that fight been 5 rounds, he would have won that fight. He was close to finishing Sean Brady in the 3rd round, last 10 seconds. Chiesa, before that, lost to Vicente Luque, was kind of winning that fight, got a takedown, was looking for some submissions of his own. Didn't take into account the threat that Luque offered with his BJJ and ends up getting Darce choked in that fight. His last win was against Neil Magny 2.5 years ago. I mean, your last win is against Neil Magny and his hairline 2.5 years ago. Michael Chiesa is 35 years old. Kevin Holland is 30 years old. Kevin Holland has a massive reach advantage as well. A 6.5-inch reach advantage for Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland's just been super active. I mean, in the last year, he's fought 4 times in the last year. So Kevin Holland's super active. Meanwhile, Michael Chiesa sitting on the sidelines. Chiesa likes to wrestle, likes to get you down, likes to get the back, look for the rear naked choke. But Michael Chiesa, his striking is horrible. And it's never evolved. It's been bad. I watched that Ultimate Fighter season where I think that was the live Ultimate Fighter season, and I noticed his striking was horrible then. And Kevin Holland, I know his grappling's bad, and it was particularly bad at middleweight where he's fighting guys like Derek Brunson and Marvin Vettori. But down at welterweight, I feel like he's been working on his wrestling. I still don't think it's great, but I think it's good enough to probably stuff the takedowns of Michael Chiesa, who isn't a Khabib Nurmagomedov, isn't one of these like crazy, amazing grapplers wrestlers like Khamzat Chimaev. And so what I think is going to happen in this fight, I think you're going to see Michael Chiesa just circling and circling and circling, having explosions of combinations, circling and circling and circling. And I think Kevin Holland will have some moments in this fight. I think he'll land good shots. I think the first round will be very competitive. I think Kevin Holland will be worried about the grappling of Michael Chiesa. But I think eventually Kevin Holland's going to clip him with a big shot, maybe a straight right hand, hurt Michael Chiesa badly. I think Chiesa is going to be shooting in on desperation takedowns. And Michael Chiesa has been finished many of times by submission. Luque got finished by Luque. He got finished by Pettis in the past. He got finished by, Kevin Lee in the past as well. Rear naked choke there. So Michael Chiesa has been finished by submission. He's only ever been finished by KO, TKO once, and that was a cut against Joe Lozon. So it really wasn't, it's not like he got finished TKO or KO. Actually, it was just a cut. And that fight was very competitive, and that was a long time ago. So I don't know if Kevin Holland's going to be able to KO him, but he is getting up there in age. He hasn't been out a while. But I think what's going to happen is Kevin Holland clips him with a big shot in the second round. Michael Chiesa, desperation takedown after desperation takedown. Kevin Holland sees him coming from a mile away, defends him. And I think Kevin Holland, as Michael Chiesa is shooting in on these desperation takedowns, Kevin Holland's going to lock up a Darce choke. I'm going Kevin Holland second round submission Darce choke over Michael Chiesa. Moving up on the card, a fight that I love, but I hate, but I love. Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. What a matchup this is. Oh my goodness. Tony Ferguson on a massive losing streak, on a 5-fight losing streak. Hasn't won a fight since he beat Cowboy Cerrone back in 2019. This is horrible. I want Tony to retire. Lost to Nate Diaz in his last fight, but he actually looked okay in that fight. I mean, it was competitive, let me put it that way. Neither one of those guys looked good. But fight before that looked good against Michael Chandler, got finished there. But he's 39 years old. He's on a 5-fight losing streak. Bobby Green's 36 years old. He hasn't won a fight in his last 3. His last fight, he knocked out Jarrett Gordon, but it came off a headbutt, so it really didn't count, so they ruled it a no contest. Fight before that, Bobby Green got KO'd by Drew Dober. Fight before that, got finished by Islam Makhachev. His last win was against Nasrat Haqparast. This is a matchup that I'm back and forth on. And I know that sounds crazy because I feel like the majority of people are going to pick up Bobby Green. But my problem with this fight is people are assessing Tony Ferguson's performance in his last fight, and they're saying he's completely washed. But people forget he took that fight on 3 weeks' notice against Li Jingliang. The UFC did him a disservice there. Took it on 3 weeks' notice. Then he had an opponent switch on 24 hours' notice. Plus, he was up a weight class. So I think Tony looked older and slower than he potentially actually is because of that, all those things going against him. But ultimately, Tony is 39. He is definitely slowing down. He also has taken a lot of damage. The Justin Gaethje beating, oh my goodness. He took a lot of damage in that fight. The Michael Chandler KO, oh my God. I have PTSD just thinking about it. But I think Tony, he's still decent. I even picked him against Michael Chandler. But after that KO against Michael Chandler and the fact that he's getting up there in age, I think Bobby Green has better striking. He has good boxing. He's fast. He has good head movement. But Bobby Green's hit or miss too. Sometimes he performs well, sometimes he doesn't. And I think Tony Ferguson has to mix in the wrestling if he wants to win this fight. And Bobby Green, because of the nature of his fighting style, he always has his hands low, ready to defend takedowns. So I think Bobby Green's going to be able to defend any takedowns Tony Ferguson goes for. It's a 3-round fight, so it's not like Tony Ferguson can expose him over 5 rounds with the pressure and volume like he has done in the past when he was in his prime. So I think Bobby Green will just be able to outbox him on the feet. I don't see him finishing Tony Ferguson. It's damn near impossible to finish Tony Ferguson, honestly, even though Michael Chandler did it. I'm going Bobby Green decision. I hope Tony Ferguson wins. I'm praying to the MMA gods Tony Ferguson wins. I'm not completely counting him out because sometimes Bobby Green looks horrible and doesn't look particularly good. But I just think Bobby Green will be able to outstrike him. A little bit better boxing, a little bit faster, a little bit younger. And Tony Ferguson is just slowing down. The movement isn't what it once was. The diversity of striking isn't what it once was. And I don't think he's all there in the head, honestly. And he's just coming off a DUI a couple months ago. Who knows where he's at? Is he fighting for a paycheck? I don't know. I'm going Bobby Green by decision, unfortunately. Moving up on the card, the featured fight on the main card, we have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Michel Pereira. What a matchup this is. In terms of fan-friendly matchups, you can't get more fan-friendly than Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Michel Pereira. Wonderboy Thompson coming off that beatdown of Kevin Holland. TKO'd him due to retirement. They quit on the stool because he had a broken hand. But Wonderboy Thompson clearly winning that fight, dominating that fight when he got stopped. But it was competitive early. Wonderboy Thompson before that got out-grappled by Bilal Muhammad, got out-grappled by Gilbert Burns. Before that, beat Jeff Neal, which is a solid win, but that was 3 years ago. Wonderboy Thompson's 40 years old. You look at Michel Pereira, 29 years old, 11-year youth advantage for Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira is a very good striker as well. This is going to be a very interesting fight because I think Wonderboy Thompson's super technical striker, but it's crazy. When I went back and watched that Kevin Holland fight, I noticed, I mean, he has significantly slowed down considering what he looked like in his prime. It was crazy. Even though he looked good, he is nowhere near what he was, even when he fought Vicente Luque, 4 years ago. And I know that's 4 years. He's getting older. You're competing at a high level. Of course, you're not going to look the same. But it is jarring. It is jarring when you really go back and look at that and you're like, oh, okay, Wonderboy is slowing down, but he still looks good, especially when he's striking. He doesn't have to worry about the takedown. In this fight against Michel Pereira, he doesn't have to worry about the takedown. Michel Pereira wins his last fight against Santiago Ponzinibbio, outstrikes and wins the fight before that against Andre Filho, wins the fight before that against Nico Price. This is a massive step up in competition for Michel Pereira. 29 years old, has a reach disadvantage. He has a 2-inch, he has 73-inch reach to 75-inch reach for Wonderboy. They're both roughly the same height. I just think Wonderboy's a little bit more technical striker, and I don't think Pereira's going to threaten with the grappling. Pereira's faster, there's no doubt about that, and mixes in a lot of kicks and throws a lot of wild punches, but he tends to slow down. So I think what's going to happen in this fight, I think it's going to be a very close first round. I think maybe Pereira gets the first round, but I think Wonderboy's just going to be a little bit more technical, sliding out of the way, landing good combinations, landing good kicks of his own. And I think Wonderboy has the better cardio even at 40 years old. So I see Wonderboy Thompson really starting to take over in that second and third round. And I see Wonderboy Thompson winning via 29-28 decision. I think he's just a better striker. And Pereira just tries too hard to be flashy, tries too hard to be doing flips in the cage and throwing flying knees. And he throws these wild winging punches as he's switching stances. And maybe he catches Wonderboy on like an offbeat moment and KOs him. But I just think Wonderboy Thompson's too good for that. Still has decent head movement, still has good footwork. He uses a lot of push kicks to maintain the distance. And I think Pereira is going to slow down after that first round. Wonderboy Thompson has the better gas tank. He's the more technical striker. And I think Wonderboy Thompson gets it done via 29-28 decision. Moving up on the card, the co-main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira. The light heavyweight debut of Alex Pereira. What a matchup this is. I absolutely love this fight. I do hate it a bit because Alex Pereira just fought a little under 3 months ago and he got flatline KO'd by Israel Adesanya. So I don't know if it's smart necessarily to be stepping back in 3 months later against Jan Blachowicz, which is with his legendary Polish power. This is a matchup I am dying to see. I just wish we gave it a little bit more time for Alex Pereira to recover with his chin. But he's moving up in weight, so maybe his chin's going to be a little bit better at light heavyweight. Jan Blachowicz, 40 years old, coming off that split decision draw against Magomed Ankalaev for the light heavyweight title. Brutalized Magomed Ankalaev's legs for 3 rounds straight, then eventually gets out-grappled in the 4th and 5th, getting 10-8 in the 5th, and then so therefore it's a draw. The fight before that, he beat Alexander Rakic, and I know people say, oh, it's an injury. I think the injury had a lot to do with Jan Blachowicz chopping the legs and also checking kicks of Rakic. His last loss was when he got out-grappled by Glover Teixeira to lose the light heavyweight title. You look at Alex Pereira, doesn't have a lot of fights in the UFC, made his UFC debut against Andreas Michailidis, got out-grappled for the first round, finds a flying knee KO in the second round. Then after that, fights Bruno Silva to a hard-fought decision. Then after that, KOs Sean Strickland, gets the title shot, is losing against Israel Adesanya, finds a TKO in the 5th round. Then after that, defends the title in the immediate rematch and gets brutally KO'd in the 2nd round. And, it's crazy. Alex Pereira, I know he's new to the UFC, or at least it still feels like he's new. Made his UFC debut 2 years ago. He's 36 years old. Now, it is a higher weight class, so the higher the weight class, basically the older you can get and still perform at a high level. And this matchup, what's so compelling about this matchup is the leg kick battle. Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pereira, 2 of the best leg kickers in the UFC, period. And also 2 of the best leg kick checkers in the UFC, period. And also they both have nuclear power in their hands. So this fight is very compelling. And, the significance of this fight, there's no champion right now at light heavyweight. Jamal Hill just had to relinquish the belt. Before that, Yuri Prochazka had to relinquish the belt due to injuries. So I don't know exactly what the UFC's plan is with the light heavyweight division, but the winner of this fight is right there in contention for the light heavyweight belt. So it's going to be interesting, and there is a little bit of unknowns for Alex Pereira moving up a weight class. But I think the real difference in this fight is, I think the grappling of Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz has the grappling in his back pocket. And Alex Pereira's best weapon, in my opinion, with his striking is the leg kicks. And Jan Blachowicz, he must have the most conditioned shins we've ever seen. Because against Magomed Ankalaev, he didn't care if Magomed Ankalaev was trying to check it. He was just kicking shin to shin over and over and over again. And We've seen Pereira against Israel Adesanya. I know he landed a good bit of leg kicks himself and was chopping the legs of Israel Adesanya, but Adesanya was landing his good fair share of leg kicks as well. And I think if Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pereira get into this leg kicking battle, I think they're both going to suffer. But I think Blachowicz has more powerful leg kicks, and I think he has also more durable legs in general. I know that sounds crazy. Plus, he has the wrestling in his back pocket. Plus, you have Pereira coming back after a 2-month basically turnaround, 3-month turnaround from a brutal KO, and then also Jan Blachowicz has some of the most brutal body kicks I've ever seen. What he did to Dominic Reyes' body in their fight was unbelievable. He just was brutalizing his body repeatedly with leg kicks or body kicks. And I seen Israel Adesanya kind of expose that a bit in his fight with Alex Pereira. Adesanya was landing a lot of good body kicks. So when I look at this fight, I just think Jan Blachowicz has more paths to victory, especially considering he can mix in the takedowns, especially considering he can mix in the clinch. And also, Jan Blachowicz, it's not like, he's a guy that's getting finished and KO'd left and right. So it's not like we have to really worry about Jan Blachowicz's chin. I mean, anybody has to worry about their chin against Alex Pereira, but I think he'll be able to take enough shots from Alex Pereira. And Pereira uses that leg kick where he kind of just flicks it out there really quick. And he just uses that to kind of, get his opponent thinking about the leg kicks. Then he comes upstairs with a left hook and he'll pull out with the jab and then look to land that left hook. I think Jan Blachowicz, he's been around forever. He has a great fight IQ and he can mix in the grappling as well. And also he has brutal KO power he's throwing back at you. So I just think there's so many factors in this fight going in Jan Blachowicz's favor. I do think Pereira is a bit faster. And when Jan does fight, you can tell his age. You can tell he's starting to slow down. But I just think he has too many benefits in this fight, too many skill gaps in this fight in favor of Jan Blachowicz. And I think Jan Blachowicz gets it done. Second round KO. I think Jan Blachowicz will be able to neutralize the leg kicks of Pereira. I think Pereira's going to land some of them, but I think you'll see Jan Blachowicz checking a lot of them, and I think he's going to mix in the takedowns early. I don't think he's going to sit there and just try to strike with Pereira early. I think he's going to find a takedown. And Israel Adesanya, in his fight with Alex Pereira in that third round, he was able to just hold Pereira down. Once he got him down, he made Adesanya look like Khabib Nurmagomedov, wrist control, dominating. Pereira would get up against the fence. He would drag him right back down. Jan Blachowicz is much bigger than Israel Adesanya. And Jan Blachowicz was able to outstrike Israel Adesanya in some exchanges, and he was able to out-grapple him. Now, I know MMA math isn't everything, but when I look at that, and I look at how Alex Pereira has performed, I think a lot of people overrate him quite a bit, because he has that nasty left hook. If he does not find the KO against Jan Blachowicz, I think he gets finished. I'm going Jan Blachowicz, second round KO. I think he mixes in the grappling. I think he kind of freezes Pereira on the feet. And then I think he's going to find a massive shot in the second round and KO Alex Pereira out cold. And we're basically going to see the end of Alex Pereira's career at 205 before it even starts. Moving up the card to the main event, Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2 for the BMF title. Now, let me just get this out of the way right now. Absolutely hate the BMF title, but I love this fight. The rematch, 5 years in the making. They last fought in 2018. Dustin Poirier is one of the most exciting fighters on the UFC roster. Justin Gaethje, one of the most exciting fighters on the UFC roster. I cannot wait for this matchup. You have Dustin Poirier coming off the win over Michael Chandler. Excellent fight there. Was winning the fight in my opinion, and then gets the rear naked choke in the third round. But that fight was actually closer than people remember, because the first round was kind of up for debate. I thought Poirier stole it late, but he got hurt badly in the first round. Arguably almost finished. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. Second round, Michael Chandler clearly won with his grappling. Third round, Chandler was trying to mix in the grappling, and Dustin Poirier reverses position, ends up on top, and finds the rear naked choke. So it really was anyone's fight. It's not like he was dominating the fight up until the finish. Fight before that, lost to Charles Oliveira, rear naked choke. Who's not losing to him, rear naked choke. Before that, KO's Conor McGregor, or actually that was the leg break, but he was winning that fight. Before that, KO's Conor McGregor. Before that, crazy fight with Dan Hooker. Justin Gaethje, his last fight was against Rafael Fiziev. A lot of people counting him out. Very close competitive fight, but I thought Gaethje won that fight 2-1. Fight before that against Charles Oliveira, gets submitted via rear naked choke. Fight before that, crazy fight against Michael Chandler, almost finishes him in the second round. Third round, a little bit of a bore, but first and second round was crazy. Fight before that, loses to Khabib Nurmagomedov. And fight before that, masterclass performance against Tony Ferguson. Both these guys are 34 years old. Poirier's 5'9" to 5'11" for Gaethje, 73-inch reach to 70-inch reach, so 3-inch reach advantage for Dustin Poirier. What a phenomenal lightweight fight this is. This is an amazing fight. I mean, both guys are relatively durable. Dustin Poirier, he has not been finished since 2016 against Michael Johnson and then 2014 against Conor McGregor at featherweight. So he's been finished once at lightweight and once at featherweight since 2014. He's so durable. He took some of the best shots from Michael Chandler. Justin Gaethje, same. I mean, had an absolute war with Charles Oliveira. Absolute war with Charles Oliveira. Absolute war with Michael Chandler. This is going to be a great fight, guys. This is going to be a back and forth fight. This is going to be a brawl. You look at Gaethje. When has he been finished? He's been finished 4 times. Twice by TKO and twice by sub. Got submitted by Charles Oliveira. Also got submitted by Khabib Nurmagomedov. And he got TKO'd by Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier. The last time he was TKO'd was against Dustin Poirier in 2018. This is a fight that's very hard to pick. I'm going to be honest, it's very hard to pick. But what I think it comes down to is, I think Dustin Poirier, I give him a little bit, I think he has a little bit of an advantage in durability. I think he's a little bit more durable. And I think he has a little bit more crisper boxing, a little bit more technical in the exchanges. When I watched back some of those crazy wild exchanges he had with Michael Chandler, it looks so crazy and wild, but when you watch it, if you watch it back and you're paying close attention, Dustin Poirier was there the whole time. You could see his eyes looking at Chandler and dodging some of those shots. And I just think Dustin Poirier thrives in some of these wars. And I know Justin Gaethje does too, but Justin Gaethje throws more looping shots. Now, Justin Gaethje, he throws that uppercut over and over and over again, has some success with that, had success against Michael Chandler, had some success against Rafael Fiziev as well. But I think Dustin Poirier in the pocket has just an advantage in the striking in terms of technical ability. I think both guys have an excellent jab. And I think what's going to happen in this fight, I think it's going to be similar to the first fight, even though that was 5 years ago. And I don't think you can take that too much into account when assessing this fight, because I think both guys have improved. But I think both guys have improved, but they're still kind of the same fighter in a way, just better in certain areas. But they fight in the same way. And I think in that first fight, you go back to that first fight, Justin Gaethje, without his leg kicks, was really just getting outstruck a lot in this fight. Dustin Poirier throwing combination after combination. And what he does is he'll throw 6 punches at like 50%, and then boom, he comes at you with a 100% shot and lands a big shot. And Justin Gaethje was chopping the legs. He was landing some shots of his own. But in this first fight, the majority of the fight was Justin Gaethje kind of shelling up and throwing leg kicks over and over and over again. And Justin Gaethje has probably the best leg kicks in the UFC. And the way he can throw them in close range is crazy to me. He'll be almost in a clinched position throwing leg kicks. It is absolutely wild. But I think you look at Dustin Poirier's last few fights, okay? He fought Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, excellent leg kicks. Not as good as Gaethje, but Poirier was dealing with those leg kicks. He absorbed some of them as well. Fight before that against Charles Oliveira, same thing. Oliveira has great leg kicks. 2 fights before that, Conor McGregor implementing a lot of leg kicks. And Dustin Poirier against Michael Chandler, we saw him checking leg kicks. Dustin Poirier against Conor McGregor, we saw him checking leg kicks. And I think Dustin Poirier, his last few opponents, one of their main weapons against Poirier is to limit his movement by chopping his legs. And I think Dustin Poirier has improved vastly in his ability to defend against leg kicks. And I think that's Gaethje's biggest weapon in this fight. And also, Dustin Poirier, I think his fight IQ has improved over the last few years. In the first or the second Conor fight, back 2.5 years ago, I picked Conor because I didn't think Poirier would mix in the wrestling. I thought he'd be too prideful. I don't think he's too prideful to mix in the wrestling anymore. And Justin Gaethje has no jiu-jitsu on the ground at all. So if Justin Gaethje gets taken down, I think Poirier could submit him. Poirier has gotten some submissions before. Poirier has 7 wins by submission. So it would not surprise me if Poirier somehow pulls off a submission late in this fight, maybe 3rd or 4th round submission, because Justin Gaethje has absolutely no BJJ. But I think what you're going to see in this fight, you're going to see a very hard-fought battle. You're going to see Gaethje kind of crowding Poirier, throwing leg kicks, chopping the legs, throwing hooks, kind of clinching up for a second, maybe like a half a Muay Thai clinch, and then Gaethje throwing some uppercuts. But I think Poirier just has a little bit better head movement, a little bit cleaner boxing. And I think, Poirier's going to be pumping the jab, keeping the distance, throwing leg kicks of his own. And I think he'll be checking some of the leg kicks of Gaethje. I think Gaethje will land some of those very hard leg kicks. And I think they will have an impact on the movement of Dustin Poirier. But overall, I just think Poirier, will be able to find his shots and land more volume in this fight. And I think he's going to come in with a great game plan. I think he'll mix in some takedowns. In their first fight, he mixed in some takedowns. He didn't necessarily really try full force to get them because he was just kind of mixing them in to give Gaethje something to think about. I think in this fight, he may get a takedown or two. I think he might find a takedown and end up with some top position in this fight. And it wouldn't surprise me again if Dustin Poirier was able to get a submission. And I think Justin Gaethje has to TKO Dustin Poirier in this fight if he wants to win. And I just can't imagine Dustin Poirier getting KO'd. I know he got KO'd by Michael Johnson, but that was so long ago. I know he got KO'd by Conor McGregor. That was at 45. Dustin Poirier is massive. He looks like a big lightweight. So I think Dustin Poirier has the better boxing, the better head movement, the better grappling, the better BJJ. I could see him hurting Gaethje on the feet, following him to the ground, and maybe finding a submission, maybe an arm triangle or a rear naked choke. But I think ultimately what's going to happen is Justin Gaethje is going to be chopping the legs, eating a lot of headshots, and eating a lot of body shots as well. Gaethje's biggest weakness is he eats a lot of body shots. We've seen Eddie Alvarez expose that. We've seen Dustin Poirier exposed it in their first fight. And I think Poirier is going to mix it up to the body well. He's going to be ripping hooks to the body. I think he's going to be ripping leg kicks of his own, boxing up Justin Gaethje's head. Meanwhile, you're going to see Gaethje just shelling up, trying to guard his head and eating shots to the body. And I think Poirier is just a little bit more well-rounded in all areas. I think Poirier is too durable to get finished, but I think this is going to be a super crazy, wild fight where both guys land good shots. Gaethje chopping the legs, Poirier landing more to the body and head with his punches. But I think eventually in the third round, Dustin Poirier gets it done, clips him with a big shot, ends up TKOing him. I think it'll be similar to the first fight, but this time it'll be a round earlier because the first fight, he finished him in the fourth round. What was crazy about that first fight is I forgot completely about this. There was a point deduction for Gaethje because Gaethje poked Dustin Poirier in the eye twice, which was crazy to me. I totally forgot that. That was completely erased from my memory. Not that that really matters, but I just think Poirier with that crisper boxing, and I think Gaethje's going to get a little wild and crazy as he slows down in the fight. And I know he's kind of improved over the last few years where he's kind of been a little bit more measured in his attack, but I think Poirier will find a way to land those big shots. He'll be ripping to the body. He'll have Gaethje thinking about blocking the body, then he'll go upstairs. And I think Dustin Poirier lands that right hand or lands a big left hand in the third round, hurts him badly, swarms him. Once Dustin Poirier hurts you, the killer instinct is unbelievable. He will not let you off the hook. And I know this is at elevation. Dustin Poirier never gasses out. Justin Gaethje tends to slow down. And I know Gaethje trains at elevation, but I just don't think Dustin Poirier all of a sudden is going to gas out because they're at elevation. But we'll see. You never know. You never know in this sport. I think Dustin Poirier has a little bit better gas tank, even though Gaethje trains at elevation. And I think that will be the difference in this fight. Durability, grappling, and also the gas tank of Dustin Poirier, I think win him this fight. Third round TKO, Dustin Poirier hurts him on the feet, swarms him with some combinations up against the fence, and eventually just melts him and finishes him in the third round. Let me know what you guys think of my predictions down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.